Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this speech, despite the late hour. My name is Stephanie. I'm a professor of European Law and Reform at the University of Central Lancashire in Cyprus. So this is a British university with a Cyprus campus. And I'm also a partner on a Horizon 2020 project, which is called SHERPA, which is the project that we will pitch right now. The project is basically in the category of technologies in the Paris Peace Forum. And SHERPA is a Horizon 2020 project which runs from 2018 to 2022. It involves 11 partners in 7 EU member states. And those partners include universities, NGOs, research institutes, as well as artists and advocacy associations and bodies. Among the many members or experts of SHERPA, we have lawyers like myself, not that many. We have philosophers, quite a few. We have a lot of course, engineers. We have industry partners that I forgot to mention, experts in cybersecurity. And we also have, as I said, activists and advocacy experts working on SHERPA. SHERPA stands for Shaping the Ethical Dimensions of Information and Technologies and European Perspective. So it's a Horizon 2020 project. Let me share my screen now in order to show you some slides. Hopefully you'll be able to see them. So the SHERPA project works around smart information systems and their impact on human rights and ethics. What do we mean by smart information systems? Basically, you have a table in front of you, or a diagram rather. So we look at several technologies, enabling technologies, which provide the raw data to technical drivers or enablers that are artificial intelligence and big data, and that are fed back into those technologies. Technologies, of course, do include Internet of Things, social media, but other more specialized technologies and machine learning. So what we're trying to do through SHERPA, which is of importance of the Paris Peace Forum, is that we are trying to address global challenges, in particular the Sustainable Development Goals, but not only. And we are basically trying to achieve or to embrace a societal mission. We look at businesses, of course, and we look at innovation in the forms of economic growth in particular, because obviously we understand the importance of technologies for the modern global world. But we also look at the ethical and human rights dimension through a personalization of services, through enhancements of human capabilities in order to actually enhance any or compensate for any disabilities. And we look, of course, at human rights and human beings, really, in the form of inclusion, democratic participation, but also empowerment of citizens and data users. So many of the concerns that we are dealing with are well known. They include, of course, data protection or privacy issues. They include societal problems such as unemployment, inequalities. They include struggles around the concentration of powers and money, loss of control, human enhancement and the lack of it. Lack of transparency in terms of, for example, biases in algorithms, or in terms of increased personal discrimination. We also look at the security or the dual use or misuse of technologies and products. and as a result, infringements of human rights. So it's a very interdisciplinary project. The project is split into several work packages, and each work package basically deals with a challenge, and those challenges are then applicable to global problems such as a pandemic. So the first challenge is, what do we mean, first of all, whether we can agree on what ethics and human rights implications exist when we talk about smart information systems. So we have multiple methodologies to do this. We have conducted case studies. We have conducted scenarios. We have analyzed cyber threats, we have analyzed ethical impacts and social tensions, and also we have mapped the relevant human rights framework. So that was the initial stage. The case studies on which most of the remaining of the methodology is based have been chosen following rigorous methodology, and I will tell you more about the methodology later. Case studies related to the Internet of Things, to the role of governments, to agriculture, to sustainable and smart cities, to science, to insurance, energy and utilities, communication media, retail and trade, and manufacturing. You can find the case studies and deliverables around the case studies on the SHERPA website that I will show you in a moment. Case studies, basically, they dealt with current issues. Scenarios deal with future issues. So again, they were based on methodology, a different methodology, to find out what could be some of the potential scenarios of the future. And you've got them in front of you. One is predictive policing, another one is warfare, mimicking technologies, education, and self-driving cars. Of course, there are many other scenarios that we could have taken or chosen, but those were the ones that appear to stand out from the methodology and are applicable to further issues. So the second challenge was to work on the methodology around the social perceptions of competing rights and interests. So we have consulted stakeholders. We have a stakeholder board. I will show you in a second how that works. And we have a stakeholder network as well, which you're very welcome to join. So we have conducted, and we will conduct interviews with experts and stakeholders at different stages of the project. We also have online surveys with respondents and a Delphi study. Again, you can find the deliverables on the SHERPA's website. The Delphi study, for example, is available. The third challenge is, what options do we suggest then for ethics and human rights in smart information systems? And those options were considered through different disciplines and through different approaches. First of all, we created a smart information systems workbook. We created guidelines for research and innovation of smart information systems. We reviewed all regulatory options that looked credible in the world into a deliverable, and we sort of tried to categorize them and classify them. We looked at the potential of standardization, and we assessed this for the rest of the project. We looked at technical options and interventions from our industry partners, and we came up with a term of reference for a regulator. So those options are now being tested and validated for possible solutions. We are again going back to the stakeholders in form of consultation in order to test and validate our solutions. So we have a complex evaluation strategy that involve the stakeholders in terms of evaluation and validation. We conduct, we have finished conducting focus groups with the stakeholders on different issues. And we are coming up now with the prioritization and the finalization of the recommendations of the SHERPA project. I will show you a draft of the recommendations. So The last stage, but last in terms of challenges, but not in terms of forthcoming events. I mean, this started a long time ago from the beginning of the project. Of course, we have been disseminating, communicating our outputs, communicating clear and simple messages through videos, blogs, webinars. We have, for example, focused lately on COVID-19 and some of the technologies associated to COVID-19 and some of the ethical and human rights implications of this technology, which is a form of communication that was not anticipated, of course, when we first started the project. We are present on social media and so on. We have artists that actually create representations of what we do, not only in terms of dissemination and communication, but actually in terms of real works of art, pieces of art that are representing what SHERPA stands for, and that actually are contesting with, at art contests. We have an exploitation strategy, and last but not least, we have an advocacy strategy to try to bring back our recommendations and our solutions to the policymakers at the EU level and worldwide. So if you're interested, this is the website, which I will take you for a short time because we have a bit of time left. You're welcome to join our stakeholder board, our stakeholder network. You are welcome to follow us on social media and spread the word. These are the project partners. So the partner is led by the University of de Montfort in the UK, Leicester, but as you can see, we have a wide range of partners, as I said, ranging from event organizers to NGOs, to associations of NGOs and other interest groups in the European Union, industry partners, artists, research institutes, universities, and advocacy groups. So it's a very diverse group of partners which allow us to cover many dimensions of smart information systems and their impacts on ethics and human rights. Now, I'm going to share with you, just a second, I'm going to unshare my screen, and I'm going to share with you now the website so we can have a look at it together. And I wanted to show you a couple of very, very short videos and the recommendations. So that's the website. So if you go to the stakeholders, then you will see information about who are on our stakeholders board at the moment. You will see names that you probably know in the field of technologies, but not only. Their role in the project is crucial, and it's being explained here. Of course, the stakeholders board is gender balanced and balanced in many other terms as well, so that we're avoiding sort of bias. If you are interested in joining the network, please use this function here so that you can join us. Deliverables are available here. So you've got all the reports that we have been writing, but we also have other deliverables in the form of guidelines, briefings, case studies and scenarios, as I mentioned before, that are perhaps more digestible, especially the guidelines and the briefings. Guidelines in particular are on ethics, which are very relevant to what we're discussing now. And we have a blog, of course, here. Now, I wanted to perhaps show you something which is not public yet, but it gives you an insight into the sort of work we are involved with now. We are looking at recommendations and we are formulating those recommendations. And our recommendations, the SHERPA recommendations, take into account not only the global context, including the COVID-19 context and the sustainability of what we're trying to do. But they also take into account the actors and the capacity building of the project. So we look at governance, we look at concepts, and we look at knowledge. In particular, we are very interested in being able to make suggestions that would be practical enough for the industry and for innovation to take place, while at the same time protecting and sustaining human rights. So our solutions are based on what is feasible and what is credible and what could form recommendations or solutions for the future. So this will be soon live, and you see we have a range of recommendations. Now, this is a very short video on what's SHERPA.
Whether it's the multitude of apps on a mobile phone or the clever energy meter in your own home, we are surrounded by devices that are constantly collecting data about our lives. Smart information systems are evolving from the combination of artificial intelligence and big data analytics. These smart information systems can spot business trends, help prevent diseases, and combat crime. Smart information systems could bring a variety of benefits, but at the same time have the potential to disrupt society, ethical values, human rights, and life as we know it. Welcome to SHERPA, the EU-funded project which, in dialogue with stakeholders, will examine ethical and human rights issues. These issues could include privacy and data protection, algorithmic biases, discrimination, and unemployment. We are working together to enhance the responsible development of the latest technologies, to find desirable and sustainable solutions that can benefit both innovators and society.
And there is another small video that I wanted to share with you, which has to do with human rights.
2 years ago, in the wake of the second world war,
I'm the devastating many people have devastated me. I do.
Ooh, what is this? Just a second, sorry.
Humans should have human rights. Most of humanity now agrees on these rights, but they can be affected by modern technologies. These challenges include the digital divide, privacy and data protection, accountability and liability, bias and discrimination, democracy and freedom of thought, health, dignity and care for the elderly, and the environment. How are these challenges manifesting in the world, and how are they connected to legal and human rights instruments? What is the way forward to promote a just and equitable society? Bias and discrimination, including that of race and gender, can sometimes be included in the machine learning algorithms that underlie the technology behind many intelligent systems. Steps to make algorithms non-discriminatory include checking the quality of the data used to build them and promoting transparency about the data and code being used. Human rights impact assessments that focus on the implications for fundamental rights could also be carried out. Over half the world's population does not have access to the internet, with the digital divide increasing as smart information systems favour high-income regions. Access would promote other human rights such as education. Within the ageing population, a lack of technical knowledge also broadens the divide. In addition, e-consultations can serve as a barrier to political participation. Broader governance frameworks based on solidarity are needed to promote universal and affordable access. Vast quantities of data are now regularly collected and analysed by AI. Data breaches and the exploitation and misuse of data pose a significant threat to human right to privacy and data protection. Although the General Data Protection Regulation, a European regulation that came into effect in 2018, is a step in the right direction, it is restricted to companies operating in the EU. A single set of rules addressing all stakeholders globally is needed. Human rights are important for all of us, and as technology changes and develops, so too do our views and insights into how these might affect our human rights. Whether it's legislation or regulation, we all have a responsibility to keep thinking about what smart information systems means for everyone's human rights.
So thank you for bearing with me and listening. Just a second. Okay. Now I see from Leo that some questions, so I will just read the question and try to answer them. So how to include citizens' concerns about AI and big data? Yes, you mean how to take into account citizens' concerns. How can they be included in the decision-making process? It seems to be a lack of public consultation in this area. Decisions are made by large AI companies and so on without consultation. Okay, so, well, we operate in the European Union. So, of course, in the European Union, there is an effort for public consultation. That effort has been reinforced lately, actually, thanks or because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we have been able to advocate exactly this point, views expressed by simple citizens, not only our stakeholders, but whoever has been involved in the SHERPA methodology. We have been able to participate to public consultations at the EU level, whether those public consultations are on the AI paper, the white paper, or on digital education, and other ways of actually using new technologies. How could this happen at a more global level is a real struggle. It's a real challenge. Actually, tomorrow morning, we will be having a discussion on one of the panels at 9:15 Paris time, which is around this very same point. So the main question is, how do we make sure that all states cooperate, including, in trying to take into account views of citizens embedded in the sustainability of their rights, as opposed to only the innovation aspect. I think that the example of what is being done at the European Union level is a good example. And forums like this forum are also very good ways to try to address this. Whoever has asked this question could get in touch with me, because I'm very interested in looking into this in terms of empowerment of citizens, which is one of the objectives of the SHERPA project, but more generally, of course, for me as an EU lawyer, of much importance. There is a second question. How will you promote your recommendations? Yes. How will you convince the public authorities or companies to take into account the recommendations? Yes, that's a very good question. And this is a question which is at the heart of the methodology of SHERPA. So that's the reason why we have advocacy in the methodology of the project. So it is, we work together, first of all, with other similar projects within the European Union, but also internationally, so that we can actually build recommendations that feed into each other. So we build like blocks. So that's one thing. And the next thing is that together, we have a stronger voice. We have been, for example, asked to train people at the European Commission, for example, on specific issues, ethical and legal issues that pertain to SIS and human rights. The recommendations will be what will be advocated. And that's why we have experts and we have advocacy groups as partners of the project, so that they can actually work back towards the policymakers. One of the solutions, but it's not the only one, is to propose certification and standardization. And we have such a body as a partner of SHERPA to be able to work on the standardization in the field of artificial intelligence in particular. Now, how we address companies and not policymakers? Well, as I said, not only do we have industry partners as partners of the SHERPA project, but we also have a large stakeholders board that actually include people from the large companies and innovation hubs that are primary actors of smart information systems. So we have, in a way, made sure that we involved them in the whole methodology so that they could give their views, but also they could realize other views that are at stake. Question 3, the project is mainly developing European perspective on the challenges and ethics of AI and big data. Correct. Do you also take into account other views and perspectives like Asia or US perspective? Yes, we do in specific tasks. For example, if you go to the deliverable that looks at regulatory options, it's deliverable 3.3 on the SHERPA project, you will actually see that we have reviewed all regulatory options available worldwide. In particular, we have been able to compare the EU approach and the US approach. And how different are they? They are different. And there are some good solutions and some interesting solutions with potential in quite a few places in the world. So we have highlighted those and not only looked at the European Union. And final question, what are the new challenges of the COVID-19 and trafficking and tracing applications? Yes, so there are quite a few challenges of the tracking and tracing applications. Those include, in particular, the fact that data are, of course, collected automatically, potentially, and are collected and stored centrally. So that is a major risk to privacy. So there have been solutions suggested in order to store data decentrally, and also to use Bluetooth technology to collect the data rather than any other technology. So, okay, I see that Leo told me that you couldn't see the videos. Okay, I'm sorry about this. Perhaps you could hear them at least. Well, I would encourage you to check it on the website. We have quite a few videos actually. And I'm happy to get in touch with anyone who was at the pitch using the platform and the chat room. So I'm happy to take more questions or connect again tomorrow and chat with anyone. No more questions. Okay, that's very good. Thank you. I don't think I have anything to add. So we probably can bring it to a close. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present the SHERPA project. Thank you to the Paris Peace Forum and for the very good organization. Of course, we would have preferred to be face-to-face. We would have preferred to be able to network among each other. But thank you all for the big efforts and good night and see you tomorrow. Thank you, the organizers, too, Leo and Audrey. Thank you very much. Bye.